and Tobago, a small island nation located just above Venezuela in the Caribbean. Thanks to its rich oil reserves, Trinidad and Tobago boasts one of the highest GDPs per capita in the Americas and offers free schooling up to the college level to its citizens. However, underneath this paradise, there lies a dark reality. The country is plagued by crime, violent gangs, and rampant corruption. In 2022, Trinidad and Tobago experienced its highest yearly murder rate in history, with 605 recorded murders, one of the top 5 highest in the world. 77% of the workforce earns less than 6,000 TTD a month, which is about 880 USD. This amount is considerably low to live on, let alone support a family. Unemployed individuals, including those with college and master's degrees, are left hoping for the best due to the scarcity of available jobs, while many others are seizing any opportunity to leave the country. Once celebrated as a small island paradise, it has now transformed into a horror show. This is Trouble in Paradise.
People are going to school, they're getting the education, they're getting the degrees, but when you're coming out of the universities, the job market is so small, there's a finite amount of opportunities that people have to leave because there's just no jobs relative to your skill sets, your knowledge.
The youth unemployment rate is particularly high. Many job seekers, including recent university graduates, find it difficult to secure stable employment. This has led to a situation where individuals with degrees are often forced to take up jobs for which they are overqualified.
Hundreds seeking to work with Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines came prepared.
Meanwhile, others seek opportunities abroad, further contributing to the country's growing brain drain. The average cost of a home in Trinidad and Tobago is around $1.3 million TTD. Given that most people earn less than 6,000 TTD annually before expenses, saving for a home is a nightmare-level task. Most citizens are limited to spending small amounts of USD online each month, which severely restricts businesses and e-commerce. Efforts to develop other sectors, such as tourism and manufacturing, have been slow. Long wait times for simple processes, such as opening a bank account or obtaining permits, hinder career progress. Gang violence is deeply entrenched in Trinidad and Tobago, with over 100 different gangs operating across the country. These gangs are often involved in drug trafficking, extortion.
It's how men they ain't walking nowhere, boy. Ain't walking a place. The duty just to rob and thief and do all kind of bad things. You know why that preventing from coming there? Huh?
Yeah, listening.
You putting up that false seal for boy.
Unlike secret gangs that are difficult to find, the gangs in Trinidad and Tobago are far from hidden. Gang leaders are recognized by the government as community leaders. One of the major sources of income for the gangs, alongside drug sales, farming, and casinos, is through government contract. This institutionalization complicates efforts to combat gang violence. Trinidad and Tobago grapples with other forms of crime, including violent home invasions, kidnappings, and femicide. While the government has acknowledged the severity of the crime situation, they have continually struggled to effectively manage the crime situation, which continues to escalate. Many citizens grapple with rampant crime, a lack of economic opportunity, and a pervasive sense of disillusionment, leaving the nation grappling with an uncertain future.
Hey. Sorry about that. The volume was a little down. My name is Renison Jeffrey. This is the Workers' Rights Platform, and this is Trinidad and Tobago Talkonomics. Citizens of the Republic, one of the main reasons that we came here tonight, we real battle to get a show here tonight because we was going to call it off tonight. But since after the general election that would have taken place on April 28th, a matter of fact, 2025, we would have realized a lot of people would have gotten silent on the things that is existing within Trinidad and Tobago. Now today we are going deep, real deep, into the minimum wage and if it is feasible and if the government could pay this minimum wage, because trade unions would have one out of the reason why the PNM administration was voted out was based on this promise. A matter of fact, this present administration would have promised public servant 10%. We starting at 10%. That was the exact words. But without further ado, I ain't wasting no time. I introducing the two guests online. I mean, we was waiting for quite a while. We have Mr. Oral Sanders and we have Miss Kezia Allen. Mr. Oral Sanders and Mr. Kezia Allen, good night.
Miss.
Good night. So I have two of you guys up on screen.
Trinidad and Tobago.
Mr. Saunders, I seen you very quiet there. I mean, I get enough feedback on my side, so it kind of irritated me on this side.
No, let me say a pleasant good night to you, Comrade Jeffrey. And of course, it is a pleasure to be here. And let me also say a pleasant good night to your other guests, Comrade Sister Allen. You know, I'm always available to share information and for us to share ideas because your platform continues to be a platform where inspiration is gained. And we want to continue in that vein tonight. So it's always a pleasure to speak with you, my brother.
And it's only fair, matter of fact, is your program, and I hoping that you take the lead. That is the co-host here tonight.
Wow. Well, thank you for your introduction. It's always a pleasure to be locked on with you because it is important that Trinidad and Tobago, the citizenry, would be well informed and guided as to what good government and governance requires, what the ministries are responsible for, and what their role are to each and every one of us. It's very important for us to get that. And as you would have mentioned, we are focusing tonight on the negotiations in terms of the public servants, the current situation, and what is being presented as the Prime Minister has indicated before winning that she would have given a 10% increase. The possibility of that, the feasibility of it, and what would be the smart tactic to achieve it, being specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timed. Yeah. So we we know what the figures look like in the negotiations for the average person, the average public servant. We know what the challenges are. But one key thing before we dive all the way into what public servants deserve, we always neglect that we have private servants that are always left in public servants are being attended to with back when back pay is to be facilitated. Private servants get nothing, but they face the brunt of every increase across the board that public servants would also get, but they don't see those financial increases that the back pay will give to the average public servant. So I want us to be very mindful of the conversation and in different areas, see where we can incorporate them because at the end of the day, what minimum wage is without commission or any other incentives, the private servants are not able to survive on basic needs, food, clothing, shelter, transport, communications. Yeah? What do you think, Carl?
Well, let me say a pleasant good night once more, and to kick off what you would have said, Comrade Sister, is that you are correct in terms of the impact of public officers continuing to work in most instances on 2013 salaries in the year 2025. We also have a few public servants who are also working on 2010 salaries. So this is a very precarious position. We all know all the austerity measures that the country would have endured, and the austerity measures is indeed more impactful for persons like public officers and like retirees who are on fixed incomes. And
Correct.
therefore, as you rightfully said, the expectation and the promises that were made, the public officers that I speak to on a regular basis are indeed very anxious. And of course, they have to be reasonable. We have a brand new government in place. And therefore, as expected, the government would need to look at the figures. And after looking at the figures, we would hope in very short order we could hear a definite statement in terms of us settling on these 2013 to 2014 to 2016 in the first instance, which is a 3-year period, and 2017 to 2019. And we even have some other public sector unions that would have proceeded into the 2020-2022 period. So you're looking at significant years of public officers, and the middle class, as we would have liked to call ourselves years ago, we have been eroded. Our purchasing power would have been severely impacted and eroded. So public officers are now seeing themselves as the working poor. I don't know what are your thoughts on that, but that is what they see at present.
No, it is actually true. And I like the concept of the working poor because that is exactly what it is. You work to exist, not even to survive. That is what they mean by the working poor. So you
Correct.
are not able to afford any type of luxury. And if you do happen to purchase luxuries, you know they're always going to be looking at you differently as to where that money coming from. Because they
Correct.
know they have you at a particular level. And that's the only level you're supposed to rise to. Nothing more. Because I know on one of our chats we've had conversations some time back regarding approaching the bank for a loan. You're
Yep.
renting $5,000 a month. You go to the bank and you present the fact that you're paying $5,000 a month. You have 30 years to your age in order to qualify for the longest time span in mortgage bank, and you'll be denied. Because the thing is, we need you at a particular level. And if you're not at that level, if you're trying to get above that, something wrong.
Correct.
Yeah?
And I will even
So
go
that
so
is
far.
the concept of the working poor.
Correct, because I would even add to that comment, sister, from the perspective that we all would have actually seen the prices of real estate escalate and go through the roof. So when you hear me refer to the public officers, public servants as being the working poor, they cannot even afford or can even think about owning a home. And as you rightfully said, in some instances, it is because of their age, because the average mortgage period is usually between 25 to 30 years. And if someone is already in their
Yes,
late
correct.
50s, early 40s, now thinking about owning a home, then your DSR is
Yeah.
well, debt service ratio, it is turned upside down because your age now becomes working against you. It begins to work against you. And therefore, many public officers could only rent for their entire working career. And that to me is extremely sad. And we really need mechanisms to assist us in moving forward. But in moving forward, the entire economy will be impacted. So when public officers strive in normal societies, we know once public officers strive, the country strives as well. Because in us being able to own homes, we could now employ persons at the lower strata of the society, whether it is your mason, your carpenter, your fabricator, these sort of persons, you could now employ those persons to come and do work on your home in terms of building, the contractors to build your own home and so forth. But because we have been boxed into these 2013 salaries, and because of escalating costs, building materials, etc., food prices, and the list goes on and on. But the actual dream, because that is what it continues to be and is even more pronounced now, home ownership to public servants has actually become just a dream. If it is, you don't have a fairy godmother in the HDC, you could just kiss that dream goodbye.
Exactly. Because just today I made mention that during COVID
Sister, we having a little audio difficulties on your side. We having a little audio difficulties on the sister side. Well, I ain't seen her on still. She might be gotten bump off oral. Now,
Yes.
oral concerning the discussion.
Speaking to reporters outside of the Red House on Friday evening.
By my phone. Talking about this salary increase that we where we are at here in Trinidad, and in terms of the economic level that is taking place at this point in time. We would have pulled some of the data from on the internet. The national budget for 2025 total revenue is about $554.2 billion, with a total expenditure of $59.7 billion, resulting in a fiscal deficit of $5.5 billion. And the GDP is approximately 2.9, a percentage of 2.9. So what is saying here is that a 15% or a 10% back pay increase could cost the country about $6 billion. So the realistic factor in terms of where this 10% back pay is promised to public servant and the people within the public sector is not realistic. And as further that we go down this rabbit hole, and public servant already have expectations concerning this budget that is taking place here, or this 10% salary increase, it may never come, because we are talking about $6 billion to get that, to start with 10%, a matter of fact. So we keep on asking the question, where the money coming from? And we seeing ministers, we seeing all kind of excuse. We are seeing verbal diarrhea within the public domain that, all right, we will find the money. But to be quite honest, in 2015, where it is, a matter of fact, I get something on my side here. I don't know if you're hearing me. Right.
Yes.
In 2015, the government was to borrow $2 billion was to facilitate that increase. So where it is we are talking about increase, and we quick to get this increase here, it is not realistically possible. And that is the thing that is the illusion that we're willing to break here tonight. Because at the end of the day, people expecting all kind of thing. Kezia.
Not just think, they're actually banking on that increase.
Yes.
They're banking on the amount of things that they can do with that money when they actually get it in hand. So when you make promises like that, you have to outline the plan, and that's going to outline where the money is going to come from. Because if it's not there, it hasn't been there since, let's say, 2010. We had to borrow it in 2015. And now, once again, you're indicating that it's not there. So where is it coming from? Why are we not looking at alternative options to start facilitating the possible payout to public servants, as well as benefits that will subsidize for that cost factor? Because if you don't know where the money is coming from, you have to start somewhere.
Well, comrades, I would just want to add my little 2 cents to these statements you all would have made, and I hate to be um, an agent of doom and gloom, but my recollection is that our oil prices, our budget, although I heard the comrade talking about 6 billion, in deficit, I think it's even a bit worse than that because our budget was predicated on roughly about a 68 US dollar per barrel oil and roughly about $3.50 per for gas. And my information as of today is that oil prices have not seen those figures.
No,
Is roughly hovering around 60, $61, and gas prices are down just about $3. So it's a bit worse than we anticipated. However,
yeah.
you all would recall that I would have just come through an election campaign in the PSA. And this actually was the crux of the entire election. Because whereas I and my team, the team and I, we were looking at the figures. As in, when we looked at the 2014 to 2016 period, as well as the 2017 to 2019 period, we saw the country doing deficit financing. So therefore, we looked at the arguments of all the other unions that were engaged in negotiations, and none of the other unions were able to move the discussion or to move the government of the day into granting them more than the 4% that was offered to them. And therefore, we at the United Public Officers team, although we were on record for saying that we were also against the 4% government offer, we were simply doing the analysis in terms of Trinidad, what was offered to the public officers in Trinidad and Tobago. We were looking at the rest of the Caribbean region, what was also offered to them. And as I said, there was no evidence to indicate to us that an increase of more than 4% at the time could be effected without the possibility of job loss to our very own members within the public service. But that argument was rejected by the membership of the PSA, and they would have accepted the argument that they are going to get a 10% salary increase once the government is changed, and the consolidation of COLA also added to that. So it's not just about a 10% salary increase. What the expectation is the consolidation of COLA, which is going to give the persons who are the lowest ranges in the public service a back pay of roughly over $100,000. And that is the words that were marketed, and that is what was accepted. And now we have a new executive of the PSC. One of the only things I would want to put on the table is that although we are speculating in terms of where are the revenues going to come from, at least we have on record the Honorable Prime Minister stating that she is committed to fulfilling these promises. How are these promises going to be fulfilled? Remains the number one challenge for the economy. Because I can recall I was much younger when during the 80s, promises were made to the public officers and they would have voted out the government, which was led by the deceased Prime Minister George Chambers. They rejected the 6% that was offered to them. And when the new government had come in, we did not only not get the 6%, but public officers lost 10% and VAT was added, and we could go on and on in terms of all the austerity measures. So I am very deeply concerned, but optimistic nonetheless, that the government's commitment is that we are going to get some relief. I am not convinced that it's going to be 10%, although this is what was promised. I really don't believe. I pray that we actually get 10% plus the consolidation of COLA. But realistically speaking, in terms of, as I just mentioned a while ago, the current oil prices and gas prices, our situation, in my humble opinion, has become even more tenable at this point in time.
You see, oral, you see, people doesn't like to hear the truth in them. A lot of people don't like when the truth is being spoken and it appear as if you're casting aspersion on a particular government. The thing about it is this. People like lies, but they hate liars. And that is a fact. You see, from the mere fact that, I mean, people like dreams, a matter of fact. When I growing up, people say, boy, you can get any woman and just sell them a dream. And the thing about it is this. I don't believe that the whole of Trinidad and Tobago is gullible to the point that they believe in what happened. Yeah, what I thought. I thought that the previous administration, the PNM, was keeping back from the people, a matter of fact, and filling their pockets. We would have seen that well, we would have seen that when they would have raised the salary, a matter of fact. But only now
Because I mean,
and people's salary still there. And we ain't hearing the salary thing discussing anymore. But coming back to the story with the public servants where it started with 10%, and all you understand, it's public servants that are talking about. They ain't talk about all the rest of union. Because we see the union with the PSA and so forth coming up to general election. The reality is there and it is facing us. But are they willing to say, here what's going on? We didn't understand, or we didn't know the country was in such a state. And even if they say that, then where have they been working for the last 5 years to know that the country that something wrong? Because the figures is presented to them. Yeah, Kezia.
Accept profit simply because you've made offerings and promises that without a shadow of the doubt, this is what you'll do. Is it that it is going to be done at the end of the 5 years for another government to do it? Or are you going to present how it's going to be done? Or where it is going to start? Because you may not be able to start off with the 10%. But are you willing to outline a plan that's going to start somewhere and share that with the public servants? And then when that is ignited, what would be the facilitation for the private sector individuals who receive minimum wage?
Correct. Because I will even go further to say that the anticipation and the rollout of the anticipation, it has to be innovative in terms of where are we going to get this money from? And what has been bandied about in the public domain is we can't change our circumstances tomorrow. It will take some time. There must be some short-term planning, there must be some mid-term, and then the long-term. And most persons are of the belief that we may have to go to international lending agencies to facilitate some of these promises. And that in itself is a grave concern to many persons, because are you going to borrow to please recurrent expenditure, so to speak? Because it is not just about a 10% salary increase, but remember, this is going to be added to the national figures in terms of what is expected on a monthly basis and on a yearly basis when we present the budget. So our recurrent expenditure is going to balloon. Now, the argument that went forward, and I think to me this is just one of the critical points that cemented this situation, is while public officers were offered 4% and other public sector workers, we saw in the final analysis what was offered to the head of the cabinet and what was accepted. And it's not just the head, but the entire upper echelons of the entire public service. And that in itself, to me, came across extremely distasteful to the average public officer, the average WASA worker, the average regional health authority worker, the workers who are assigned to the NIB who would have negotiated successfully for a 9% salary increase, and it was stopped. So you have persons saying to themselves, listen, we could trust our politicians to a certain extent. We want to believe them. And if they're saying, hey, guys, we are all in this together, right? We're going through some rough waters. Persons expect that 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 sentiment will not just be words, but it will be backed up by actions. And you would expect that our leaders will also tighten their belts similarly in the manner in which they are asking us public officers to tighten our belts. So when that did not take place after we would have been tightening our belts for so long, more than a decade, to see that politicians would have gotten significant increases and would have just left us in abeyance, so to speak, it would have rubbed persons the wrong way. And how this government now can navigate or really curtail expectations based on our realities, our economic realities, I'm not sure how the public service will welcome such news, if they will be accommodating. If it is, we are going to do something similar to the US and just blame the previous administration for the woes of the current administration. That may be a strategy, but as I said before, I'm not sure if that will be acceptable going forward. I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
According to you, we should be able to believe and trust in the politicians, a matter of fact, because we are entrusting them with a very huge responsibility, and that is managing the economy. And on both sides of the fence, I mean, they should know what is taking place. I mean, they are in parliament, most of the times. They are debating bills on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, whether government senators or opposition senators. So they are privy to certain information that takes place, that goes on within the parliament, because they ought to be able to access the data that is necessary so they could put up a counter argument in this country. So where it is at the end of the day that they only come in at this point in time and they realize, wait now, something wrong here. It didn't have this and it didn't have that. I mean, it leaves me speculative to their cognizance or in their ability to be able to run this country. I don't know what the rest of you have to say about that. Now, Ms. Kezia, you're in and out. I see you back up. So let me see if I could put you back up on the screen. You was out for too long just now there.
I humbly apologize, but it's technical issues apparently.
Yeah, well, I'm realizing that sometimes we just have those things on this side. So the audience ain't seen you as yet. So let us, right. So you're back on?
Yes, I am. Sorry about that. The internet, I don't know if it's the weather, but the internet seems to be giving us some problems tonight.
Yeah, it's cutting in and out. I think it is the weather. Because if you all look behind me, one of my kittens is dancing in the wind. That is what
Yes.
Right? So I just wanted, now the thing is, Renison, I heard what you're saying, yeah? But we are only presenting our economic status as a doom and gloom. But we have so many alternative options that will bring in $1 billion US on a yearly basis if we have a government that thinks smart, one that assess all our opportunities, not resources, because we already established that we are out of resources. We can't even count on the oil and gas industry or pitch at this point in time. We can't. We absolutely have to forget it. But what about different avenues? For example, we need to look at international investments. We can look at international investments so that we can look at more profitable assets and fluid, oh my goodness, Just 1 second. Because the wind is wreaking havoc here by me. But anyways, I'm so sorry. So yes, I wanted to get back into the alternative options available. We just constructed the Port of Saint General Hospital's new wing. In the previous administration of UNC government partnership, there was the Hoover Hospital that we know barely functioned. We have the arena that was also reconstructed and added on new wing. Among the countless others. Are we observing or highlighting a business opportunity for the regional market at least, where surgeries, both electoral surgeries and emergency surgeries, are concerned? Because when you add up the potential earnings, the public sector, this is not marketing for the private sector medical division. This is the public sector medical division. You are charging individuals regionally to facilitate their surgical needs. If we tap into that resource, it's an industry that we can absolutely earn from in US dollars. That's an alternative option to income to restore the economical status Trinidad and Tobago is in. It will increase our rating to allow us to attract foreign investment or international investment, whichever one you want to look at it, whichever direction you want to look at it. It will allow us to issue sovereign bonds to the public servants that in years to come will be way more than what they battle for in increase. Yeah, in back pay. But you see, the problem is if we do all of these things, and if we reposition your status, you will no longer be the dogs. You will rise. Because at this point, you'll have purchasing power. They will no longer have control. So when it is a government is coming to promise 10%, and when the next election comes, we have to beg again, another government to give us another percentage. It is at this point I am saying, is it that you really want us to, because the thing is, when you get that increase, sometimes before you get the increase, everything around you raise. All your basic needs will have an increase. And when that increase happens, guess what's the next step? That money that you were given as a back pay will have to pay everybody aboard in the meantime to facilitate your living. So when the money hits your account, it's already gone. It's already gone. So I need the public to understand that even though they are proposing the 10%, the finance possibilities are there if our government thinks smart. And we do not have to depend on back pays. They would be able to structure sovereign bonds for every public servant that will generate wealth for them in years to come.
Right, good. I would want to fully endorse what the Comrade Sister would have said, Comrade Sister Allen, because I have been on record as well for stating that when I heard the Honorable Prime Minister speaking about the Children's Hospital, unlike the public voices of another union that was actually trying to tell the Honorable Prime Minister and government, no, I am joining with Comrade Sister Allen and saying yes. And to me, this is a beautiful opportunity for us to expand the services in that Hoover Children's Hospital and actually open it up for medical tourism. That is really what I think Comrade Sister want to say. It's really about
That is exactly my words. Thank you.
medical tourism. And I want to coin that phrase because what I'm saying is that most times, when persons, as unfortunate as it may be, find themselves in a situation where their children require urgent medical treatment that is not available, not only in Trinidad, but maybe for the other islands, that is even more challenging for them. Persons have to find US currency. They have to get a visa. And we know that the American system has changed somewhat and it is more difficult to even access those things. So I am saying, I am joining with the Honorable Prime Minister and saying, let us make Trinidad and Tobago the destination of the Caribbean, of the Americas to come.
$1 billion industry.
Correct. To do those surgeries. And I want to say
Billion
that
US.
Children's Hospital could be a model that we are using as in the Jacksonville Hotel and the St. Jude's Hospital, where a parent could leave their country and come and stay there because the hospital actually have a facility where a mother could, there's a bunk there. So you could actually stay with your child while receiving treatment. And because we are all members of CARICOM, then we could be paid easier, we could move money around easier, and we could also
These
attract,
countries have
correct,
more
we could also
talent for the
attract,
US.
we could also attract doctors from Europe, from Africa, from India, the best in the world to come and work here and train with our doctors. And we could be the model medical tourism country of the Caribbean and of the world because it must be easily accessible for persons to travel and to come to Trinidad and to stay. You're already worrying about the fact that your child has an ailment. Yeah, that is already a worry on your mind. How wonderful it would have been to know that you don't need to go to America to get a visa. You just could come to Trinidad within 24 hours. You get an air ambulance. We have the facility. Come with a helicopter. We have the helipad at the hospital, and we could carry this idea so far to generate some income that is much needed, and that would be US dollars. I am also saying that public officers, in spite of the economic realities and our expectations, the government can, as Comrade Sister has spoken a while ago, we could stymie some of our expectations in terms of cash by getting bonds so that those who could afford to get the bonds could get some bonds. We know we were just discussing about the prospect of home ownership. So there are several acres of land in Trinidad and Tobago that is not being used. It's just bush, bush, and more bush, and it's underutilized. I mean, I don't know if you all have had the opportunity to take a drive down to Point 14 via the new highway, but that is such. If you see the amount of open land space
Hey,
I
hey,
see,
don't bad talk down on the side like that, brother man. Don't do that. Hold on, but before you go on, before you reach to that point here, somebody in the chat would have said that Trinidad is not ready for medical tourism. I mean, I mean, I'm gonna like get to expound on that a little bit because I mean they are also part of the show as well, the audience. So, what do you have to say about that? Well, Kezia, let me hear your side. I mean, you want to cut off for it, but go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I'll let you respond and then I will just add it. Go ahead.
Sure. No, I can understand persons' concerns because you know what they are looking at is their past experience. They're looking at the bad treatment. They're looking at the inefficiency in the current system. But as I said a while ago, I don't know if our audience pay close attention to what I'm saying. I'm saying this is an opportunity. So an opportunity, we have a new government, we have new expectations. So we could now inject the type of funding and we could invest in our people by training and deculturizing, because there's a bad culture of poor service. So it's an opportunity for us to be better and to really understand, because I'll tell you something, in the other countries in the Caribbean, like for example, Jamaica and Barbados and these countries, they recognize that they do not have the amount of natural resources that Trinidad and Tobago has, and that their tourism sector is an ultimate opportunity for them to raise revenue and to improve their lives. And therefore, correct, and therefore their attitude towards the tourists had to change, whether it was voluntarily or by force. Their economic reality indicated that there must be a change. And I am saying that Trinidad and Tobago, we are human beings and we are very smart individuals, and we have an opportunity, I think, with new leadership in the country. And if it is we start to love our country and to love ourselves, we could start to take care of each other in a different way, and that we could train ourselves and position ourselves to really appreciate and take advantage of the opportunity. But it comes back to what my sister Allen was saying a while ago. This type of thinking requires a master plan and it requires a master vision. And the vision must be articulated properly. It must be shared, and we must also have buy-in from all the key stakeholders so that we all could understand the challenges that lie ahead, the opportunities, and the rewards that could come out of an attitude change or in this type of investment. And it's as simple as that.
So, comrade, what about BBLs? I mean, we ever think somebody doing BBL? I just asking. Okay.
At the time, we're not there yet. Because I wanted to expound on what Oral is saying. First, to begin with, I can provide statistical data that indicates that we currently utilize medical tourism. That's statistical data with every private hospital in Trinidad and Tobago. Not one, not two, not three. And I can even call some key names of individuals around the CARICOM arena that have been using the medical services in our current system. What I am saying is there is enough for everybody. The public service, private service will still have its fair share. But we in the public service will then also be able to get a greater piece of the pie. It is a market that the public service can tap into, the government can tap into it. And when the government taps into it, they are facilitating more patients and would be able to generate the income necessary, and not TT dollars, but US dollars. Because Trinidad and Tobago is the only country in the CARICOM that has problem for US. There is no other country on the CARICOM spectrum that has a problem for the US. You walk into their banks, you ask them for US, no problem. They're not asking you if you have an account. They're not asking you, telling you you can't get this amount. You have to come back. It's no problem. You walk in and you walk out with your US dollars. So for the caller or the viewer that indicates that we're not ready for it, when would we be ready? We weren't ready for carnival back in the 1900s, but now it's the greatest show on earth. So is it that we are supposed to be reactive with everything else while the cow starving, while the grass growing, the cow is starving, and they have grass? Move the cow from the area it is and put it in one that is flourishing, and the cow going to eat as much as it can And then that's how we give you milk.
Comrade Sister, let me just add to what you're saying. And for the viewers, I want you all to know that there is a Chinese symbol that speaks about adversity. But you know what's the irony of it? The irony is that the same symbol for that is the same symbol for opportunity. And it is based on how you interpret your circumstances and on how you position yourself to take advantage of the predicament that you would have found yourself in.
It is a market. Medical tourism is a market that is already being utilized out of Trinidad and Tobago. Barbados or Barbados, however you want to pronounce it, at the end of the day, they have fertility clinic. They have what you call it, BBLs, cosmetic surgeries out of Barbados.
Correct.
Think about it. And our facilities are more. Our population is greater. We have more medical professionals, and every year, and we have just let out, whether it's doctors, whether it's nurses, we every single year. What are they going to do when they finish study? Where are they going to go? The market that we tap into. This is a whole different opportunity, even increase jobs in the medical arena.
Correct. And I see it exactly the same, and I am on record for saying the very same thing. We have so many unemployed persons, but of course, I know there are challenges. I'm not saying that this is going to be an easy walk in the park, but I believe that there is an opportunity for us to maximize the ability of the country to attract persons within the entire CARICOM region to come to Trinidad, and we could be, as we said before, the real movers and shakers, and the persons that would be facilitated easily. As I said, if it is, you look at the Miami Hospital, Children's Hospital, St. Jude's model, parents could get to go there. So you're looking at a restaurant on the compound. You're looking at laundry services. You're looking at all of these opportunities. Yes, you're looking at taxi services. You understand? So that persons, once you come there, you're paying in your US as Comrade Sister says, because it is easier for our CARICOM brothers and sisters to access US currency than it is for us. There is no forex problem for those other countries. Just right like Grenada. In Grenada, they don't have a forex problem. St. Lucia, they do not have a forex problem. We have a forex problem. In fact, let me tell you how bad it is. There are business people who are actually going over into Guyana to invest into Guyana simply because Guyana they could get in US dollars, and it's as simple as that. So correct. So if it is, these other countries could utilize.
That part is secret. We can't let everybody invest in Guyana when we try to make a dollar.
Yeah, correct. Right. So, but we're just giving analogies of where it has worked and where it continues to work, and why, giving the callers an understanding of this. While you thinking it's not happening, it is happening in Trinidad and Tobago. It's just that we never looked in it from the government to take advantage of it. Private sector has taken advantage of it, but it's time for us.
These government ministers have already tapped into the resources, because many of them are part of these different facilities. So when we think, no, it's not possible, it's happening already, they are gaining already, all I'm saying is broaden the horizon and let the country earn from it. If in the first 2 years of opening surgeries to countries that we already serve in the private sector, you may not charge exactly what the private sector may charge. You may be a bit cheaper, right? But for the persons who can't wait, they will still utilize the private sector. But for the ones who can't wait and utilize the public service and pay for the public service to facilitate them, that is a $1 billion industry that could turn around if they move swiftly enough in 2 years. And instead of offering back pay offer bonds, offer sovereign bonds, offer 13-month salary. There are other benefits that can be offered. You have price regulation and stipulation that could also take place as well. You have the rent assessment board that is needed, rent people pay out here. Because if you look at many places, you pay for a matchbox. And listen, I can literally show a video of the house a landlord lives in. Right next to the apartment that his tenants lives in. And let me tell you
That's a
something.
contrast.
You can
It's a
fit about
contrast.
the whole, listen, you could fit the whole apartment building in the house the landlord living in.
Yeah. And
But
this is
guess
why I
what?
was
It's
saying,
a coming
this,
from.
this is why I was saying, you see, with the road network expanding, we have a new highway also going up to Sangre Grande, going up on that end up there. And there's so much land available because I am sure many persons who are in the public service, if they have an opportunity or an offer is made to them, or I recognize that you're working on a 2013 salary, you're working at St. Anne's Hospital, you're trying to do the very best you could, you're in a little financial hole, we'll give you X amount of cash now, but are you willing to take, uh, yes, are you willing to take, I'm getting a feedback, guys.
I am too.
Are you hearing me better now, guys?
Yes, I'm hearing you better.
Right. So I'll say, are you willing to take a lot of land on the way to Point 14 Oral? We're giving you 6,000 square feet. We're giving you an opportunity to get a minimum interest loan from the mortgage finance bank at 2% or 1%, seeing that we already owe you some money. I will rush at that because even though I may not be able to build on that lot of land, I have two sons and I know I could will it to them for them to take it forward. And these are the things we need. Oh, Madam Prime Minister, I already own a home. Instead of giving me a lot for building one house, I would be willing to take an acre to build to go into long-term or short-term crops. So I willing to, you know what I'm saying? So there is opportunity for us to look outside of the box. Some people might prefer to get a back pay in in units from unit trust. All these sort of opportunities are there for us to look at. But definitely, public officers need some as of yesterday. Because one of the things that I have recognized over the past years is that many financial institutions have sprung up and taken advantage of public officers in terms of loans with high interest rates, short-term loans with high interest rates, because they recognize that public officers, we can't afford the houses anymore. We can't afford to purchase land. And you know, you're getting older and you can't stay in your parents' house. Or even if it is you have to stay in your parents' house, people looking at you as in you ain't achieved nothing. And that is why you have so many cars on the road, because so many persons, because
It's
they can't
easier to buy
afford
a car than
a property, they rather at least buy a car, so at least I not just
to show
squeeze up and
some
get a
level
wet
of
in the rain.
accomplishment.
Yes, correct. So this is an opportunity for us to really grow the economy by using the middle class, the real middle class, which is the public service, to reinvest into our country by us building houses. And I think that in itself could really be the catalyst for change and for us to get out of the economic situation that we have found ourselves in. So, you know, those are just some of the ideas that I would like to, you know, offer tonight.
Speak loosely like some of the people that others be hearing all over the network is Amanda's come all the time with the facts. So just just about 5 minutes before the show, Kezia say we get an oral on the show. And I say, well, I say, Kezia, where you know this man from, girl? No, well, at the end of the day, we deviate a lot. When they talk about point there and you go down on the highway, I get my vex. I myself had a garden close to the highway before they did pass through the area. And they would have paid me off, they would have given me something because they would have run the highway through the garden. So there is a lot of space, and sadly, if we notice that Trinidad is part of the rainforest, and we have two type of climate, rain and we have sun, we have water.
Yeah.
Trinidad is an island, right, wrong. We could put the salination plant anywhere, on any side of Trinidad, and get water if we are up to shortage. So when I hear only 27% of Trinidad and Tobago getting a 24-hour supply, I like, what really going on here? What really going on here in Trinidad?
That's a topic for another day, no?
Oh God.
But guess what? Every 2 seconds you drive, there's a leak. Right?
Age infrastructure, yes.
Listen, hey, that's a topic for another day. That would take up the whole night.
Correct. But before I go, I just want to add something too, because I know in the past there were discussions for us to open up a boat building or boat repair facility in Labrie or in its environments in Point Fortin.
No, is it in Labrie? It's in Labrie.
Right. That too has the potential to bring in significant US dollars, because if it is, we establish that zone as a zone that anybody visiting the Caribbean basin can come and put your boat up there, and we have the artisans, we have everyone in place to repair your boats. That in itself is another opportunity to bring forward investment.
Every ministry has the opportunity for tourism.
And now is the time.
The one that will pay the most is the medical. If we start ASAP, it will recover our economical status and facilitate all the other ministries tapping into what level of tourism they can.
Yes.
So that level of tourism you're speaking about is under the Works and Transport. That's a whole different ministry.
Correct.
We have under education, UE and all the other universities are not operating optimal.
Correct. Because
so that's under education tourism.
You're right, because even with the DB campus that is supposed to come on board, which is in my community, which I'm very happy to know will be reopened so soon. Even if it is, we are going to whichever direction the discussion and the final decision is, whether it's medical, whether it is a law facility, that in itself can also, as you're rightfully saying, if it is we use it to its fullest potential, we can open it up to our CARICOM brothers and sisters for them to come here to do their training in terms of law enforcement.
As state-of-the-art medical facility.
Correct.
Offering surgical residency.
Yes.
Surgical residency, because you want to focus on surgical and critical illness support, medical support. So you're able, if you have kidney disease, potential and lucrative, bet your bottom dollar everybody can benefit from it. Because I heard you mention bringing in doctors from other parts of the world. But do you know we have a lot of Venezuelans, surgeons, and doctors here that are unemployed?
Not unemployed, but they're working under the radar. Not
Well,
just unemployed.
let us say that way because that is true.
Yes,
That is true.
they are working, whether it's dentistry, they are doing the
Yeah.
thing, but it's just that they on the and let me tell you something, we have to really look at all the opportunities, because in doing so, we may have to bend, we may have to twist, we may have to contort, but at the end of the day, we need a plan and we need a vision, so we all know where we are heading. And once it is, we know the direction in which we are going in. I think Patrick Manning was the prime minister that used to have a 2020 vision or something like that.
Vision.
You're right.
Correct, yeah.
No, I'm not talking politics from that point of view, but I'm just saying that at least there was a template, there was a
Clear view
document. Correct.
of
That
what
we
you're
all
going
know.
to do. And that is what we're asking for, Aura.
Right. I'm hoping the prime minister.
All that you say you're going to do,
Yes.
give us that 2020 vision. Let
Yes.
us see it with you.
Correct.
This is the plan. This is the strategy. This is
And this
the
is how I can
tactic
help.
that's
And
there.
this is how I can help. And this is what you want the average citizen say. Right. So I hear the prime minister's vision. How can I help? And she shows me whether you are a worker man, whether you are a taxi driver, whether you are a housewife that you're unemployed, but you know what? You know how to make some polori, you know how to make a little sugar cake. We could need to know how we could participate in that plan to make the country better. And that is something that I think we need. And once it is, we have that foundation, we can now move forward. That's what I am of the belief.
I agree with that 100%. And I would hope that she would, her method of assessing the needs of the country supersedes the needs of the government. And they would look at what they can do for their country and citizens as opposed to what this country and citizens could do for them. And really tap into resources that can take us out of this rut. Because I'm not saying it for the once or the twice. That medical industry would have been will be, not would have been, but will be one of the best opportunities Trinidad and Tobago have had in decades. On top of that, currently 1975, Renison, we spoke last week on how much sugar we import. Come on, we could revamp that industry and then start back the export, because remember, when countries paying TT dollar, we're lower than the EC, we lower than the Bajan, and we definitely lower than the US. That's another US stream of income coming in back there. That's tourism under the Ministry of Trade and the Ministry of Agriculture. So why it is we have to come and tell them how to do their jobs. If you are government, govern. Because the information that is available to us is available to them. I have no problem with the plans that you're outlining, the promises you want to make, the offerings you want to give. I have a problem if you do not say how we are going to do it and how it's going to be sustained. Because doing it is one thing. But why do taxpayers have to wait for 5 and 10 and 15 years to get an increase and back pay? Why can't it be steady every month? It tells me that you want taxpayers under your feet. They must not rise to nothing. And it is time that mentality change, because it's hurting the country, it's hurting our economy, and it's hurting our social. I do not understand why it is they are not seeing it and focusing on the development.
Thank you, my sister. Well, let me say, let me bid my farewell, because I just longer than I have.
Well, that is same thing I come to say that. Or we go down finish up just now. I mean, we don't pass the hour. So you know.
So thank you all very, very much.
No, don't stop it, because I want to give you a point and then say that. Don't try that trick on me this evening.
So I really, would like to thank you all for the opportunity to, to speak on these topics. At the end of the day, I think once there's a will, and it's a genuine will for us to move forward, I think we as Trinbagonians can move forward. There is an opportunity for us to move forward, and where the public service is concerned, we are in unprecedented territory where the PSC is perceived to be part of the government, for want of a better description. And therefore, if this is our current reality, then I have very high expectations for the PSC as my union to take advantage of its position in the government to really grow the organization, and for public officers to return to the middle class, and for us to bring along those who are the lower echelons of the society, to bring them along. So we mustn't have a situation where we are leaving persons behind. But we need some redress, we need some form of compensation as of yesterday. And although we are anxious, we need to be responsible, but we need a government that is really caring, and we need a government that could work with us and not run from us. And that is what we are looking forward to. So thank you all very, very much for this opportunity tonight.
I know, all of you. I mean, there are people that was listening on the outside. A guy would have sent a voice note and he would have put it up on the chat to play it. So I played it. Why Zoe online? So if there's anything I mean, any questions that Oya had to answer, well, and I know the guy, I play with caution, he's a very stern critic. Iwan is a very stern critic.
I have to run, comrades. I really have to. I'm sorry to. Yeah, but I have to run.
No problem.
That's not a problem, but thank you so much.
Kezia will answer. Kezia will be able to answer.
Well, right. I hope she had the testicular fortitude. All right, Doral.
Take care.
Right, Kezia, I'll play his voice too.
I feel you guys with your ideas about medical tourism, but as it stands right now, I don't think it's possible. In order for that to be a reality, you have to order services and procedures that is not available in the United States. One thing you got to understand is trainees don't really come out of pocket for medical in America. They have insurance to cover that. So the procedures that people will leave the country for is the BBL surgeries, cosmetic surgeries, like doing like implants or some kind of procedure that is not readily available in the United States. That is what if you want to do medical tourism, that is what you should be focusing on, like mostly cosmetic procedures, because that's what's expensive in America, and people would actually shell out money for those kind of things. But everything else you was talking about, like the children hospital for medical tourism, that's a bad idea. And medical tourism for regular procedures, that's a bad idea because no one is going to pay for it.
I always knew he was a stern critic, Smiley. And as I would have said it, I would have invited him during the election lead up to come on a broadcast with us as to discuss some of the things from your perspective. I know you have been shunned on different shows and on different platforms, but I is one that welcome criticism, a matter of fact. I am a person that welcome criticism because that is something that would have sharpened my skills, in responding to certain things that are outside there. I mean, on the next side there, Miss Kizia, she internet really bad out here, and she.
Listen, you all are seeing my cousin dancing in the background. That's simply because the weather on my end is distracting the feed. So I humbly apologize, but I wouldn't argue or fight with God at this point.
Okay. So, you're not supposed to, eh?
I heard exactly, but I believe I heard most of what the viewer would have been trying to indicate. But I do not understand why they think, because if I understood what he's saying, is that Trinidadians would not leave going to the US for medical service. I'm not sure. I don't think I got all of what he said.
No, what he would have said in the voice note, he would have said that
But
we in Trinidad and Tobago does already get certain things free already. So Trinidadians may not stem into the factor or may not be enticed to go down the road of medical tourism. What he's saying is that we shouldn't look to Trinidad and Tobago to be able to make money. I mean, from the outside, things like BBLs and those sorts of things that might be attractive to, women and, and other people outside of the country, a matter of fact.
okay, so this is what I will urge this caller to do. Yeah.
Yes, I'm in.
One currently, right? So that his first level of research is to see how many medical
Bluetooth disconnected.
Well, again, the feed, a matter of fact, the feed.
Yeah, sorry, I think I cut off again.
Yes.
You
Now
me?
come back on again.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right?
we are getting me.
Southern Medical and all the other medical facilities in Trinidad and Tobago, people in the Caribbean already come here for many medical services. What we are doing is opening that channel to include the public sector in a separate organization, maybe, to facilitate those same surgeries, but where the income is made by the government. Now, the private sector will still do what they do. It's all based on preference and where your dollar value could reach. So if it is you are unable to acquire the services of the private sector because it's maybe a little too high, even when you bring your US, the public service would be just a bit less and would be able to offer you a lot more packages and facilitate medical surgical services and treatments, because it's not just medical services. They do not have the cancer treatment facilities that we do. I can promise you that people in the Caribbean that have cancer, those that can afford it, they come to Trinidad to do their treatments. Those that can afford treatment for kidney, they come to Trinidad for that. I'm not even asking. This is not question. This is me again. Sorry.
Yeah. I see you come back on there. So, yeah, it's sticking.
But their research, because the private medical facilities here, Caribbean citizens already visit here for their different surgeries. I actually know someone out of Georgia. Well, it's a holistic hospital they come to here. Facility, not hospital, but facility. But they travel here for that because it's cheaper. It's Georgia boy. I'm not sure I'm saying exactly where they're from. In the US. But I know that they visit here for treatment. So I will just urge the caller to understand that this is an opportunity available to the government of Trinidad and Tobago to tap into. It will require some research and feasibility studies to determine what areas would be best. Children facilities are very, very intensely needed for different illnesses that are plaguing children. And again, Trinidad and Tobago, compared to the rest of the CARICOM, the rest of the Caribbean, have very good facilities that could be revamped. We do have to revamp it. As it is, we cannot do it. But with a bit of tweaking and revamping, we can tap into that, not just for the cosmetic surgeries, not just for that. We will have the cosmetic surgery, that's $1 billion industry by itself. But medical necessity surgeries is another industry that has $1 billion value just facilitating the Caribbean. Not to mention if we facilitate a children's surgical hospital and treatment facility. Come on, we ain't even start to scrape the bottom of the barrel of the potentials just that ministry could earn. Then we can look at Caroni, 1975, in order to revamp or reopen this sugarcane industry to produce renaissance with respect to how much sugar we import. We will now be exporting that and earning US. We don't even, we are asking questions and we are speaking, but we are not speaking with researching. And I can absolutely tell you, if you didn't know, you can Google it. And now there's AI. You can ask AI anything. And you will get an answer. And you will get an answer. I am guaranteeing medical for tourism in Trinidad and Tobago. It's highly possible.
Well, I see you went in deep into that explanation there, Gil, Miss Allen. Now, as we come to the end of the broadcast, I mean, I'm sorry that, we could not have taken calls tonight as to say how, you know how the thing does go. So, I'm hoping that next week, next week, Saturday, please the Lord, that, we come with a bang. Yeah, son, and he ain't come so close up to the time, excuse you. Yeah, so a little 2 days before that game. I just like when things soak in. I like when things soak in a little bit now.
Yeah, I will try my best. It's just that my weeks are very, very packed. Okay. Especially the coming weeks because I travel again on Tuesday.
Okay.
So it's a bit difficult sometimes. Not that I would forget the things that I have to do, but when you see me throw it in, it's when I actually get the time to sit down and put the time into formulating the topics that we will focus on. And as I said, this one is imperative. This topic on public servants and back pay would have been an imperative topic simply because everyone is looking forward to that. My problem is not the offering because it's well deserved. My problem is telling us how you're going to do it. And then when you do it, how are you going to sustain the economy afterwards? Or is it that you're going to wait until the 5 years run out and wait, promise it, give it, and wait for another government to give it, to actually issue it when you make that promise? All I am asking is that you make it make sense, because if the max in, it's not going to add up.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, what the other say in your closing comment? I mean, we done zoom past the time already. Pooh! Now it comes to the closing. And Kezia, next time, I know I'm not doing so much work. I'm leaving it up to you to to control the whole broadcast. I mean, I still toying out from this whole election time kind of thing here behind the scene. I still toying out that kind of way. I still, chatter in the direction in which, I intend to going further, because, I mean, there was this big build up towards election, and afterwards everything just dropped. Everybody just didn't know what about at this point in time. So,
That's exactly
just keeping everything straight here in Trinidad and Tobago, and fighting still on the ground, gathering information, put it up. We have a team that is managing the platform now, that is putting up content after content of different and varying subjects, and at the end of the day, election would have finished. The campaign season is over. Now it's time to do the work, the actual billing and the diversification in which is needed to save Trinidad and Tobago. Now it's not a time to campaign what just one and what Jaron, because we would have seen figures that have been thrown around within the public domain, and we get to understand that, hey, so this figure wrong, that figure wrong. We would have seen, I want to talk about it. We would have seen Barry Padarat would have been talking about a 16% 24 hours water supply, and Marvin Gonzalez would have came and debunked it with data that would have been provided to him from WASA. And then in the long run, you would have seen WASA release a statement that it's only 27%, and Marvin Gonzalez would have quote as 67% 24 hours water supply to certain parts of the country, and you see WASA now come and debunk it. What is really going on within these public utilities that is going operations in Trinidad and Tobago? If I send somebody else outside to collect data, and at the end of the day, you give me data in which is logged within a book, information that you sent to me, that there's a 66% of Trinidad and Tobago that would have gotten a water supply, and WASA coming out and saying it's only 27%. What's really going on in Trinidad? So at the end of the day, who lying? Who lying? Who would have sent these? Who would have sent these signals? Yeah, who would have sent these signal to Marvin? That Marvin could have said that. And some of these gullible people that are outside, they go say, Marvin lied, but the man would have had well-documented figures that would have been sent for him by the administration, by WASA. Correct. And then WASA coming now to say that it's only 27%. What really going on in Trinidad? Nah.
The sad thing is, they're still thinking politics and party and forgetting that there's a country that needs a government and governance.
True.
So if it is, we keep twisting the facts and changing the story, and nobody ain't stopping to cross the T's and dot the I's to say, okay, this is the gist of it. This is what we're getting down to, the brass facts. It is just going to be what I say it is, and then somebody comes and drops another set of info, and it's not going to make sense. The people of the country, this is not a politics card. This is, if the country suffers, we all of us, especially of a certain level, will suffer. It ain't no if or buts or maybe. Because let me tell you something, if the economy of Trinidad and Tobago does not turn around in the next 2 years.
I don't know what is taking place. Kezia, you would have Mr. Lane.
You're getting me?
Yeah,
sorry about that, but that's good. You see that going on there?
Mm-hmm.
Just do it. But what
Let's say again then.
I'm wrong, if we don't stop, oh my goodness. Anything? Is it better?
Yes, we as a senior, yes, take on the screen, so.
Okay, I'm hoping that this comes in better, right?
Right, we getting a little better, we seeing you a little better.
Okay, so if we do not focus on the government and economical status, parents will have to pay for CSEC, like all other countries in the Caribbean by the government because they're going to have certain things, and that is one of them that they will drop. And you know what they will say? All other Caribbean islands pay for their CSEC examinations. Imagine having to pay for your child for 5 subjects minimum, because in Trinidad and Tobago, the minimum number of subjects needed to work anywhere in any basic job is 5 CSEC subjects. Review what a CSEC subject is going to cost you. Not to mention children who are in the colleges and other 5-year, 7-year schools that will be doing 7 to 9 subjects or 7 to 12 subjects, respectively. If you, the parents, have to pay for that, you all are not processing the need to ensure that our government operate the way they should. Because at the end of the day, if we do not keep track of their performance and identify key performance indicators by the things they do that benefit the country and the citizenry, we all will suffer. And the same people that coming to drop the comments, as negative as some of them may be, would now have a different song to sing. Because I can tell you, if this government does not do what they promised to do, come the end of the 5 years, the same people that voted them in will sing a different song and vote them out. So I need you all to believe that as if it's the gospel truth, because at the end of the day, it is the reality. So,
Miss Kezia, I mean, you keep on breaking up. Bad weather, according to you, you can't get vexed with God.
I'm sorry.
You can't get vexed with God.
Well, we may have to do this another time. At some point in time, we will do a repeat and bring oral back on, because this is an ongoing topic. It's not going to rest until it's actually addressed by the government. So this topic would be coming back and circulating constantly.
True.
So whatever we missed today, whatever was cut out by the dip in internet, we will pick it up in another
session.
Broadcast.
Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks the audience for keeping.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
underneath these type of bad conditions that we are currently having here. The audio off, everything off because of the weather, matter of fact. But thanks for staying on with us, and putting up with it, matter of fact, putting up with the conditions that is taking place. So as again, this is Trinidad Social Talkonomics, and the host is Miss Kezia Alain, not Renison Jeffrey. I'm not the host at all. Yeah. I am not the host. But Miss Kezia, I really don't know. So thanks for joining us here tonight.
It is my absolute pleasure, because I think it's always a pleasure. I am happy to be a part of this. So come next week, we'll have another hot topic, and we look forward to the viewership, offering your comments, as good or bad as it may be, and suggestions to help us develop the Trinidad and Tobago we want. It's ours and our children's to come.
Well, thank you.
So do have a good night.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Renison, take care. Godspeed.
Yeah, you too, Miss Allen.
Thank you.
Disconnected.